So this is not my sexy voice. This is about all I've got left. I'm Sharon Bonesteel from Salt River Project. I am a licensed architect. I'm a certified building official. And I'm just so fascinated with batteries. And it's just occupied my life significantly for the last 3 years. I've been working with the Department of Energy's working group on energy storage safety and looking at how do we use batteries in a safe manner. I'm leaving this slide up because it's got my email on it, and I am more than willing to respond to emails and help people in any way I can as relates to these issues. I also teach my full-day battery class at the Arizona Building Officials Educational Institute, which will be this year in Prescott at Buc-ee's, and it's April. Go to their website, azbo.org, and the full-day class. So there's absolutely no way I can address all those issues in the, what have I got, 15 minutes to leave Jan enough? Yeah, there we go. Ain't gonna happen, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flash through a bunch of slides really fast, but try to give you some general concepts. So, you know, we've all seen a lot of creative energy solutions out there, and what we're really concerned with is making sure those are safe. That's why your building officials and inspectors are out there. And those individuals are really experts that you can rely on and talk to if you have questions. If you run into a building you're trying to sell and you think it's got some iffy stuff, take some pictures, go talk to your building official. They really do want to help you, and they want to help keep people safe. There are a ton of different codes and standards that relate to safe buildings, safe batteries, and it's this, it's these, it's these, oh, and these. So, you know, if you really want to get down in the weeds with me, come to my class. There's lots of different types of energy storage, from hydroelectricity, pump storage, compressed air, thermal energy. And I can tell you that in the 3 years that I've been working on this stuff, I just keep having to review and review and review because new technology comes on the market. We're looking at things like flywheels, and we're also looking at using those for lots of different things. They're not even in the building code yet. We're just, I think, this go round starting to put some stuff in there about it. But we're also looking at some disasters that are occurring, and they're making us all step back and say, yes, we want to proceed very quickly with this new technology. On the other hand, we want to make sure we do it safely. This was a company, they were testing flywheels under a government grant. Employees went out to lunch. During the time period, the flywheel broke. It flew apart, it crashed through these tilt-up buildings, sent blocks flying. You can see those pieces, blew through the door. Luckily, nobody was hurt. If you look on the far left side, you can see, well, I guess you can't, can you? Did I kill it? There we go. Well, on the far left side, you can see where it actually blew all the way through the subgrade and the foundation wall. Okay, so when we're talking about batteries, we're talking about flywheels, we're talking about stored energy. So they're little bombs. On the other hand, you're all carrying one around in your pocket, so don't stress, okay? This is what the roof looked like. This is what they call in the fire department self-ventilating. I'm not going to show you the fire, and I'm not going to get into the chemistries of batteries. But you know, back when we had nothing but fire, earth, water, and air, hey, was pretty easy. But now we've got lots of different chemicals that lots of companies are combining in different manners to try to see if they can get a more dense, energy-dense battery. And so building officials, what we're constantly doing is we're looking at what's the hazard? What could potentially go wrong, and how do we protect against it? We've got flow batteries that are a couple of tanks where they're running chemicals through a third tank. The potential is you could have leaks. Those leaks could get into the groundwater and cause all sorts of problems. You've got your lead acid. This is our good old workhorse. On the other hand, please do not put them in your master bedroom as a backup for your solar. We had a guy very proud of his installation. We had to remind him that they off-gas when they're charging and could potentially harm his family. We also look at the fact that when these batteries break, you can have chemicals that take you days, lots of dollars, put people out of work for days, so we got to be real careful. Like I said, on the other hand, we got lithium, and every single one of us is carrying it in their pocket. Now, there was the little episode with the phone that was catching on fire, and they discovered what was causing that. It was a battery in the pouch. It was a short circuit due to a manufacturing error. You know, after a couple of tries, they got it right. And we've got lithium ion, Tesla, great strides in that arena. We're getting a lot of energy density. But keep it all in perspective. You know, we're driving electric cars. I have a brand new, yes, 2017 Leaf. I love it. And I don't mind parking it in my garage. I feel perfectly safe. On the other hand, we're also starting to look at what happens when there's some kind of impact. Now, this is a car that they did a crash test on, and what they got into was how do they determine when it's safe? So imagine that instead of this being a car, it's a battery that you've got in your garage, okay? So after they did this test, they put lots of water on the batteries to bring the temperature down, stop the thermal runaway. They took one of those great little guns and ran it over the battery compartment and said, thermal imaging says it's out. Woohoo. Took the car, put it on the back lot, came back 3 days later, and found this. So we have a cost issue related to, if this was a battery in your garage and something happened, how long does the fire department stay and watch it? How are we sure that it's out? What we're talking about is stranded energy. In other words, it's that energy that's left over after there's been some sort of damage. You know, I'm sure we're going to come out with the Ghostbusters gun that we can point at it and suck all the energy out. We're not there yet. So a lot of the fire departments are really struggling with just how they're going to handle this. And there's a lot of, you know, I've been teaching tons of classes, a lot of fire guys talking about how we handle fires. And when we start putting these lithium ion batteries in our garages, how do we protect that house? How do we protect the neighbor's house? I'll skip that one. So we've got lots of different batteries, and Mandalay is using Sonnen. Tesla's out there with their Powerwall. LG Chem's got some good ones. Certain things I want you to start thinking about. What is the operating temperature range, right? Some of these cap out at 122 degrees Fahrenheit. If you place this sucker on the west side of your house, down in Phoenix, you think it's going to get over 122? Yep. So, you know, I'm really involved with these. We're talking with these manufacturers, talking about how does that work? How do we solve those issues? Because this is a really important development, and it's coming, and we need to make sure it's safe. You also want to look at what the capacity is, what the depth of discharge is. In other words, can you completely discharge it, recharge it, discharge it, recharge it? And also, how does the warranty of 10 years stack up with what the battery capacity will be at the end of the warranty? You know, as the longer you've had your phone, the less it holds the charge. Same thing, same concept. I'm not even going to get into what the code says about it because you guys aren't going to go there. But just know that the 2018 codes that are being adopted across Arizona right now have tremendous guidelines and good guidelines on the use of batteries in residences and commercial. Click. One of the basic things I can get you to start thinking about is separation between these batteries and other things. Lot lines. In other words, we don't care if you burn your own house down. Don't burn down the neighbors. They get really angry. You know, make sure we've got separation from public waste, buildings, stored combustible materials, hazardous materials, and other exposure habits. And it also, you want to think about the firefighters. You know, that was one of the issues we dealt with initially with solar systems, is making sure that when the firefighters arrived in the event of a fire, they weren't going to electrocute themselves. We kind of like to keep those guys around. They're, you know, not only do they look good in calendars, they're really, really, I'm married to one, I can say that. But the other thing you want to think about in terms of some of the residential batteries is there a proper ventilation? Do you have smoke detection? Do you have monitors on it? And one of the areas that is just starting to really expand is energy management systems. And I see this being a really big future, allowing us to combine the solar and the batteries and manage when it's charging that battery, when we're using the battery because it's a peak period and energy's expensive, and when we're going to go back to charging it again, and what essential loads we're going to use, and how we're going to manage all that. So energy management systems are a really hot topic. Again, lots of different types of batteries. They all have their different kinds of risks. But again, the key safety issues you want to think about are ventilation, making sure there's enough adequate ventilation, spill control, you know, lead acid batteries or any of the ones using liquids, can you control a spill if it occurs? Thermal runaway, that's that concept of one short circuits, and then it gets the other one too hot, and then it gets the other one, and then it cascades. Think of it like breeding cats. Yeah. Think about that one a second. This is why we fix cats and release. Signage, make sure the firefighters know what they're getting into. What kind of chemicals, what kind of battery are you dealing with? Sometimes gas detection, sometimes depending upon the chemical being used, a great big sign that says apply no water. So, know the chemistry, what are you dealing with? Understand what the hazard is. Is it going to explode? Is it going to just burn? Is it going to off gas? Protect against that hazard. Ask for listing and labeling. Make sure they're UL listed and labeled for appropriate, and you're using them appropriately with the way they were tested. Look at the temperature issues and document, 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 especially if you're in the process of putting improvements in and you're planning on selling the home. Yeah, I think we all eventually think of that, so that you have the kind of data to allow the new homeowner, the new buyer, to really understand what kind of product they got. So thank you. There's a lot of solutions in energy storage coming down the road, and we are just running to try to keep up with what's happening, and so we can stay ahead of it. So, thank you very much.